Hello and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for watching. And I just had some extra time today, so I wanted to hop on and record a little message for you. So I'm loving the views that I'm seeing on the last two videos that I posted, and some comments are coming through, but I really want to hear more. And it's important that you've watched those two videos for the message that I want to share with you today as well, because they are related. So I just posted my new free masterclass, which is going to be on July 21st at 1 p.m. Central Time. And this is called Masculina Boss Babe to Feminine Elegance. Okay, we're talking about the transformation. And that's why I said it's important that you watched the previous two videos, especially the tough girl versus feminine energy, so that you can understand what we're talking about today. Okay, so this just came to me in a very quick way, actually, right before I hopped on. And I was really trying to think of how to describe, oops. I was really trying to think how to describe the work that I do with my clients and who really benefits from my private coaching. So, if I think back to a really common archetype of a client, it would be the Masculina boss babe. Okay. And that is with zero shame, zero judgment. It is just a statement of fact. And so the Masculina, and I'm borrowing this term from Chloe. If you guys are familiar with her YouTube, I'll link it in the description below. I love her videos, and the way that she uses the term Masculina in her videos will help you to understand. But just think like boss babe. So your life is together. And we're going to talk more about this in just a moment. But when I say boss babe, that's not a dig, that's somebody who is accomplished. But for some reason, you're just projecting a lot of masculine energy. So, again, I just want to paint a picture for you. Masculina, boss babe, and we are transitioning to feminine elegance and embodiment. So, what are the symptoms of being that Masculina boss babe? We have rushing. Rushing is the number one symptom. Okay. You are rushing while you're talking, trying to, get the conversation to move a little faster. When you're walking, you are the one in front. I need you to pay attention. When you are eating, right? When you're taking time to have a meal, and all of your transitions in and out of the house, to and from Pilates. We'll talk about who the boss babe is in just a moment, but you're just rushing. Okay. And let me pause for just a second. I had to go get some water. And let me actually switch to describing who this woman is, and then we'll talk about the symptoms. I think that'll work a little bit better. Okay. So, who is this Masculina boss babe? She is a woman who is successful in her career. So, she is usually earning over six figures. She's in a middle or senior position usually. And she definitely, like, the distinguishing feature here is that she can stand on her own feet professionally. So that's not an issue. All right. And she's actually doing really well. So most of these women are living in really nice houses, really nice condos. Like, they have everything together. She dresses well, good quality and in fashion pieces, but somehow still coming across as masculine in a way, just in the energy and how it's all coming across. If she is super heavy into the masculine and she's chasing, like she's really in her chasing energy, then, and the pursuing, then she'll likely be single and not really making much progress. Or she's dating and in, or possibly in a relationship, but she just feels like somehow the man is more feminine, if that makes sense. And it's not necessarily a deal breaker, but she's just has this feeling of like maybe he's leaning into his feminine, I'm leaning more into my masculine. Okay. She at work can sometimes overfunction. When you're overfunctioning, what that means is that you are kind of overperforming. You're doing more than is being asked or is required of you. Because sometimes you can be asked, right? But you're definitely, picking up the slack for other people, carrying a lot of the weight, and you are a star essentially, but you might not be valued as much as you should be. Okay, in terms of your position or your compensation. So that's something that typically defines this woman. You're likely a Sephora VIP. You're definitely doing Pilates and upscale type of experiences. So you're going to those nice happy hours, rooftops, you take vacations and your hair is done. It's either dyed or, you know what I mean? Nails are done. Nails are done. And you're, like I said, doing all of this self-care, but for some reason, the energy is still masculine presenting. And you want to feel more confident in your femininity and feel that magnetic kind of power instead of just the performance power. And this is why I said it was important that you watch the previous video. So the tough girl versus feminine energy, and go to the take and watch the cool girl video as well. And just these tropes of female characters that are, okay, so the tough girl, she is strong like a man, thinks and acts like a man, but she's hot. The cool girl is cool like a guy, likes to eat junk food, um, likes sports, isn't polished, etc. But she's still, guess what, really hot. And so these tropes are actually male fantasies. Okay, because the male writers are not able to create a character that actually represents strength and easygoingness and, being the cool girl as feminine. They always just default to masculine characteristics and then just make the actress hot. So because they just think that femininity is being hot, and they don't write more into the characters. But they get these tropes of like, this is what it means to be strong. This is what it means to be tough. This is what it means to be cool and like, fun and stuff like that. And so they don't actually give them feminine characteristics. They make them all masculine, and then the actress is just hot. And so these tropes heavily influence our way of thinking, not to mention the fact that we live in a male-dominated society. I'm not going to argue with anyone about it. It is what it is. And so we are taking an eagle's eye view here, and we're not blaming the men in our lives or the one next to us, although, there's plenty of men that you could blame for certain things. But let's focus on the lesson and the message for today. But we're taking an eagle's eye view to understand the cultural programming. When you understand your cultural programming, you are doing yourself a favor so that you can examine and let go of limiting and incorrect beliefs. It's an incorrect belief that strong women are strong just like a man in the exact same way without having any more examples, right? That in order to be strong, you have to be physically strong like a man or tough. You have to have the same strength as a man and act and behave in the same way and repress your emotions. That's cultural programming. So if you are a boss babe, imagine the cultural programming that you received, that you had to be a certain way to get to where you are. And that's true in a sense. That's very true. And so you should not shame yourself or, you know what I mean, be upset. There has been no instruction and guidance given to women for how to do this while maintaining your femininity, because we view it as a weakness. And what we've been shown in movies and television that is that, let me go back to my notes actually, because it was phrased in a certain way. Oh, the tough girl is there to disprove the stereotype that women are fragile and weak. So when we want to disprove that we are fragile and weak because we want to stand on our own 2 feet, and rightly so, nobody is saying that you should be fragile or weak. What we're saying that is that in order to disprove that, you don't have to default to being exactly like a man. There's room for something else in there. That's what the message is that you can't rely on what you've seen in the cultural programming, because they didn't necessarily show us, because all of these characters were written as male fantasies. And so anyway, that's the description of the Masculina boss babe woman. Okay, she has her life together. She has friends, she has relationships, or she's dating. Even if it's not leading past, you know, a couple of dates, she's dating. Okay. Definitely making over 6 figures, or usually, I guess I should say, doing Pilates and upscale type experiences, etc. Her life is together. It's maybe even somewhat bougie, but for some reason, even with all of that beauty maintenance and self-care and luxury, something is still masculine. So everything is polished and groomed from head to toe, but the energy is still masculine. So what are the symptoms? What are the issues if that's the case? Let me start with that. If your energy is still coming across masculine, then you're likely giving more than you're receiving. So that's why you might feel like if you're in a relationship, the man is more feminine and you are a little bit more masculine. And again, it could just be subtle. It's sometimes it's not even a deal breaker, but it's just, you know what? I'd prefer to shift this. And so a lot of times when it comes to this type of work, especially for this type of woman, it is a preference. It's not that you can't, or like what you're doing is wrong. Please don't get that message. You know what I mean? But it's just a preference. It's noticing that, you know what? I just I want to have a different kind of energy and I want to have a different kind of experience. And I just feel like there's this part of me that is not, I don't feel like a goddess. I feel like a boss babe. When I walk into the room in a pair of heels, I feel like a boss babe, but I don't feel like a goddess. And I want to. I want to know how to turn that on. So, the results, if you stay in your masculine, you might be giving more than you're receiving, which is not a crime. It's not a crime. Okay. You might not experience as much pleasure as you could or that you want to when you're too much in the masculine. Okay. Because you're focused on doing and giving instead of receiving the pleasure. So you might not feel as, when you say, oh, I have an RBF or whatever it is, you're just you're not in your feminine pleasure. That's why. Okay. Life, although enjoyable, it can feel more like a burden sometimes. And like I said, you might have all of these things around you. So your house might have like really gorgeous furniture, very aesthetic. Okay. This woman who is a Masculina boss babe is tapped into aesthetics. So you have a particular aesthetic, but it's not giving you the femininity because femininity is not an aesthetic, it's an energy. Well, I mean, in a way, it's an aesthetic, I guess, but that's just part of it. You can't put glam over insecurities, awkwardness, right? Lack of social elegance. You cannot, and in the dating scenario, you cannot put glam over the pursuing, chasing energy, which is why you keep repelling men. So those are some of the consequences or some of the results. And it's like I said, there's nothing wrong with it. Even if you're in your masculine, that doesn't mean that you can't get into a relationship with somebody and get married and have a family. Like, if you are happy with that dynamic, please be happy about it and you don't need to watch this video. I am speaking to a very particular woman right now who is like-minded, okay? And if you disagree, that is completely fine. Some women are really drawn to this in a way. And I've been doing this work for about 15 years. And so I know this woman. I know this woman. I've worked with her a lot. It hasn't been every woman. So if you've been my client before, you don't know who I'm talking about. Some of you might actually know who I'm talking about, but not that that matters. But I know this woman. And I've helped her slow down, tap into what I like to call feminine confidence, which is just not just being confident in yourself, but being confident in yourself as a woman. So like I said, I don't need to help them be a boss at work. I need to help them feel like a goddess. And then they sometimes take that with them to work or you know what I mean, a dialed down version, and it actually really helps them. It's just that they were only shown one way. And so they were approaching everything in their life from a very like type A masculine type of energy and not being able to slow down and embody and tap into, thinking about femininity as like a checklist and like, let me do the eyebrows and this and that. And you know what I mean? Without ever asking themselves kind of revealing questions and doing some internal work on how they were talking about themselves, their self-concept, and their need to kind of like rush and control to distract themselves from not having to confront that they might be a little uncomfortable in their own skin, or they might have some insecurities that haven't left their energy. So that's what it is when it comes to body language. So if you have insecurities that are still living, then somewhere, even if they're not major, then it could come across in movements that are restricted and jerky and just feeling self-conscious. So this woman, like I said, she's a boss at work, but she's self-conscious about her femininity. So, and for some women, they wouldn't be. Okay. So if that's not you, then again, totally fine. But for some, they are. They are self-conscious about their femininity and they want to do something about it. They're open to changing and they are open to receiving. And that is the first step, that little crack in the door. Sometimes the first step was coming to me for a private lesson and then learning like, oh, you know what I mean? So many lessons about how to slow down, how to be in the body, how to soften the way that we talk to ourselves and therefore kind of soften with the people around us, change our self-concept, adopt a new mindset, and actually adopt a new way of showing up in the world through our movements, which gives us more confidence and makes us feel feminine. We feel soft, we feel delicate, we feel graceful. That is not the only definition of femininity, but it is part of it for some women who desire it. And that is something I can help with. Okay, that right there, that specific thing, that feminine goddess energy that's elegant, soft, sensual, but still delicate and kind of subtle. I guess what I mean by delicate is subtle, not like you have to be petite or, you know what I mean, petite and delicate, because that is not the case. It's more delicate in terms of the artfulness of the movement. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. So the symptoms, if you are that Masculina boss babe, I'm kind of going back and forth through some things, rushing through everything, rushing through talking, through walking, eating, etc. I said at the beginning of the video, if you are always walking ahead, something to pay attention to. Overthinking and living in the head. Okay. That's a big one because you are conditioned to really be in your thoughts as somebody who has reached the professional level that you have. So because you're operating in the intellectual mind all the time, there's not a lot of space for the feeling and the being and for the flow. Self-conscious about your femininity. I kind of mentioned that before. And what does it mean to be self-conscious about your femininity? What that means is, like I said, walking in a pair of heels, but like on a date, or having somebody want to take a picture with you and just not being comfortable, not knowing how to stand, not knowing exactly how to express yourself in your relationships without feeling like you're being whiny, like you want to be soft, but it's just not working. And you probably find yourself over communicating, especially with your partner. You probably find yourself over communicating and just not really being 100% sure of yourself. And let me think, I haven't defined this in more terms. I just know it when I see it and when women are talking to me. Feeling like, being more selfish is something you should feel guilty about, right? Just not necessarily feeling like the goddess. That's the biggest thing here. So let's say that the femininity or the feminine energy that I'm talking about is that goddess energy, like a Monica Bellucci and Angelina Jolie, right? Where it's just like, whoa. And even just a little bit of that is plenty. You know what I mean? It's the flavor. It's the sensuality. That's what it is. You feel confident in yourself as a successful woman, whether you're independent or partnered, but it's the sensuality that you don't necessarily feel confident about, and not just in the bedroom, because I know that's where everybody's mind goes, but like in daily life, you know? So that could be a symptom. Type A and controlling, you find yourself micromanaging, and that's why you're giving more than you're receiving, because you are like overseeing quite a bit and making sure that you're giving a lot of reminders and instructions to people, and you want to control outcomes. Okay, you probably want to control this outcome. That's why you're hesitant, because you're not sure what the outcome, in bullet points is, because that's what you think it's going to be, and it's not. It's embodiment. We don't have a chart for it. Okay. That's one of the things that you have to let go of. Hyper independent, and there's nothing wrong with being independent. There's nothing wrong with being a boss babe. We've already gone over that. But it becomes an issue when you don't like the feeling of being so hyper independent, and or that when you're in a group, you are often default assigned a masculine role. So you're the one who initiates and plans and checks in. You're the one who's opening the door all the time, driving, etc. And it doesn't mean that women can't drive. I'm just talking about you are always doing actions, okay? Always you're the one that gets defaulted to the cleanup, the follow-up, the doer, okay? You have awkward or insecure body language, and this could be because you just never, you know what I mean? Never had any training, never had any help, never had any guidance in that category. And maybe you had a couple things that you were insecure about when you were younger. Maybe you still have those insecurities. They're not ruining your life. You're not thinking about them all the time, but they are holding you back in terms of how you're moving. But you don't even necessarily know, because, again, it's something that you're not trained in. So the lack of awareness and coaching is keeping you stuck there. Okay. You could be self-critical. And again, it might not be ruining your life because you're a boss babe at work, but you just feel like you could be softer with yourself. Okay. And sometimes it comes out in conversation because you're self-deprecating and you don't even hear it. So you might actually be talking yourself out of more confidence, but no one has made you aware and taught you how to watch your words. So you're still successful, you're still a boss babe, but you don't necessarily know how to watch your words. So you don't realize that you're actually speaking some self-critical things into existence and blocking yourself. You might have difficulty relaxing, like fully relaxing, because you feel like you're supposed to work and you feel like you're supposed to do something. You feel like you're supposed to make the most of whatever it is. Okay. And then here's the definite one, overly pragmatic. So this one actually kind of goes against the picture that I was painting. That was more like boss babe Pilates princess. The overly pragmatic woman is somebody who is denying herself because she doesn't think that she's worth it. And you know what? This could show up as restricted eating and difficulty with food, because it's sort of a worth thing and denial of pleasure. So if you feel like there's an area of your life that you're denying yourself pleasure, in this case, for this type of woman, actually, the boss babe Pilates princess, it's more likely denying yourself pleasure in the way that you eat. But usually when I think of overly pragmatic, when I'm thinking of the different women that I've worked with, the overly pragmatic is more restrictive with herself financially. There's less luxury, less less of a luxury kind of experience in her life. Like she would never go to a spa. That is not practical. So I had written that down, but now that I'm talking about it, I don't know, see if you can relate. And then you're not aware of the subconscious signals that your energy is sending out because you are living in the mind. So you are living in thought and you're not tuned into energy and people's body language that much. So you're not aware of your own. And you don't realize that your subconscious beliefs, some of the ones that you're speaking out loud and speaking into existence because you don't know how to watch your words, you're a little self-critical, especially when it comes to your like your feminine confidence, like, oh, you know what I mean? I'm not that, I'm so awkward, I'm so clumsy, that type of thing. You're not aware that some of these subconscious beliefs about yourself are showing up in your nonverbal energy and in your communication overall. Okay. So that's why you are always doing more than you're receiving, because you're not tapped in to that goddess energy. Okay. So we want the goddess energy. It's wonderful to be a boss babe. It's totally fine to be more in your masculine. If that's what you like, totally fine. I am talking to the woman who wants to tap into the side of herself that is receiving more, that is feeling confident about her femininity. Okay. And someone who has heightened powers of attraction and is more sensual. But it doesn't have to be total, it's not va va voom. We're not taking it straight to va va voom. Now you're Dita Von Teese, you're on stage. It's much more, you know, everyday than that. So some examples of some outcomes for my clients, especially the ones who are these Masculina boss babes, is reduction of stress. So before the doing, the rushing, the going, we've greatly reduced that. We've started to slow down. We've started to be more in our bodies. We've started to become visibly more graceful, and that has given us like a total boost, you know? We feel more feminine right off the bat because we have that quality of movement that might be stereotypically more feminine, but it's something we wanted. And now we have it. And our relationships are starting to change. So either we are developing higher standards for ourselves, if that was an issue, and having better experiences, or we are no longer repelling by chasing and pursuing. And if you are dating or in a relationship, it's bringing it more back into balance where you don't feel as masculine. You're more in the receiving. You're starting to focus more on your pleasure, and you've understood that centering your pleasure, not just the to-do list, is what helps you with that radiance, that glow, that sort of, you know what I mean, alluring and magnetic feminine energy. And you are actually performing better at work because you have this newfound confidence that you don't have to prove yourself. So you aren't, it's not just that you are a boss babe to prove how much of a boss babe you are. It's because you are a boss babe goddess who is fully tapped into her power. And so you have a magnetic force as well now, rather than you are just here to perform. You know what I mean? It's a different level of self-assuredness. And that's what really helps my clients, is their self-assuredness is deeper and more connected to their femininity now, instead of just being based off of how much they have accomplished and all of the luxuries that they have in their life and like how well they're able to take care of themselves. It's like they finally addressed some of those things internally and just like ask themselves some questions to release the need to always fix, rush, and do. It's it's really powerful. So what we're going to do is on July 21st, we're going to talk about this more. And if you relate to what I'm talking about, I really would love for you to come to class. I am speaking to a very specific woman right now, and I would love for you to come to this conversation that we're having and talk more about this transformation, because there's nothing that I like seeing more than women step into that part of themselves and blossom. That is one of the things, I haven't talked about it as much recently, but when I think back to some of my past clients who, and you don't have to have all of these characteristics to relate, you know what I mean? This is just sort of the culmination of a variety of people that I've worked with and women that I've talked to and observed. And so, oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought. This happens sometimes. Let me respond to my text message as it comes back to me. The transformation. Oh, the blossoming. Okay. So the blossoming is how I would describe what I see happen with my clients when we work together one-on-one, is that they start to relax more. So the body language has changed. They're more confident. They're moving slower. And so from there, you just get to see more of them. And they're more radiant. And it's just, there's more beauty, but I don't necessarily mean that anything like changed physically for them, but there's just the softness and the pleasure and the high vibe, and the goddess starts to blossom. And so some of my clients have gotten married. Some of them have totally leveled up their relationships. Some of them have really taken this and applied it at work and really kind of elevated themselves at work. Some of them have decided to start businesses. I mean, there is this blossoming and multiplying that starts to happen in their life. And that is one of the main benefits of tapping into feminine energy, because men do and women multiply. I think that comes from the Bible, right? And I told y'all, I'm not religious, but wisdom is wisdom. And some things are true without needing to be explained. So when you really start paying attention, and when you experience this in yourself, and when you learn to recognize it, because you're already doing it, that's why you're so successful. That's why you're over functioning, why you're over performing, why it's so easy for you to, you know what I mean? Because you can multiply, but you have to get out of the, you know what I mean? The rigid, rushing, do, chasing, pursuing, treating everything like a task type of thing, and learn how to sit back and be more tapped into that part of yourself, your soft power. So July 21st, 1 p.m. Central Time. I hope I see you there. And as always, let me know what you think about the video. I would love to see your comments. And hope you have a great day. I'll talk to you soon.